We're coming, and we ain't backing down.
We don't need a bunch of cats in here looking in the mirror.
Everybody just do your job. You understand that?
Hey, will you shut up?
I'm bitterly disappointed with the officiating today.
Guys being dudes.
And they run through our like through a tin horn, man.
Thank you, Lee. Alex, massive night in the United States of America last night. Massive night in New York City. The polls showed the inaugural college football playoff rankings.
That they did. And the entity that we knew was going to come out on top came out on top. The Ohio State Buckeyes at number one.
It's funny. I actually, so we do CBS Sports, top 25 or what have you, on Sundays. And when I submitted mine, I actually tried to find the way to put Indiana my personal number one. And when you go with the resume metrics, Ohio State does edge them by a nose, to be fair. I went through this exercise.
Yeah, I don't want to get too wound up about anything in the first playoff rankings release because I respect our audience too much for that. I think it's low-hanging fruit, and it's just not that interesting because things are going to change. But I'll pick out the few things that are interesting to me.
I should say what is interesting is going on the CBS Sports YouTube page while the rankings are being released on ESPN and watching me, Hakeem Dermish, and a cavalcade of stars on that rankings release show where we break down the rankings as they come out and the bracket as it is week to week to week. That is very interesting.
My friends who live in Charlotte, who you've hung out with before at like my wedding bachelor party, saw you on TV during the rankings release last night, by the way. They're very excited.
There it is. I'm honestly pretty fine with how these shake out. Oregon, I don't think Oregon's the ninth best team in the country, but their resume isn't any good, by the way. It will be good. Should they beat Iowa, which we will talk about later on the show, and if they can beat USC and if they can beat Washington, but it isn't any good right now. Utah at 13 is interesting to me. Not in a way that I either agree or disagree with it, just quite literally just pointing that out, that Utah is hanging around. And they like BYU enough to put them at 7. And then, good Lord, do they not like the ACC?
No, they're not big fans of the ACC. I thought that Oregon, which is down at 9, as you mentioned, might be getting a little bit of a rough ride with regards to their Penn State win, which is going to be it's going to be an interesting case. On the surface, yes, they should. Penn State's going to go 4-8. This is a bad team. But you were in the stadium that night, and that was before Penn State had lost its will to live and become a tire fire. Now, was Penn State always this bad a team? Reasonable people could disagree. I feel like I would treat that Penn State win like a fringy top 25 win rather than a win over a 4-8 team, if we're trying to be honest about the caliber of Oregon.
Sure.
But you are who you beat at the end, and I understand the way that it works. I'm not arguing with it so much as I'm pointing out that I think it would be fair to treat that win a little bit better than it's going to be treated because Penn State was not yet what we now understand Penn State to be at that time.
I also do think Oregon was just a more Penn State, excuse me. Penn State is just more mid, obviously. It was more mid than we expected. And then the Northwestern loss, after the Northwestern loss, the season is lost, obviously. So I don't know. I treat that loss, or that win, I should say. I treat that win by Oregon with less respect than you do, and with about the amount of respect as the committee does. I think Oregon is fine where they are. Again, Oregon was my preseason pick to win the national championship. All right. I think they're really good. The resume will improve if they get to the end of the season unscathed. ACC.
Notre Dame at 10, Miami at 18. What do you think of that?
We're adults here. Notre Dame is making the playoff if they finish the season with 2 losses. Sorry. The thing with the ACC I think is curious is that it sets up something that I hadn't actually really considered, which is if your power conference champion as the ACC sucks, they'll be outside of the top 10 and the 11th seed in the playoff, which I just never really considered ACC champion not at least in the top 10.
I think what this is telling us is that the ACC is very unlikely to be a 2-bid league, but the Big 12 may very well be.
Has a chance to do so.
Yeah. Like
in the way that the ACC was last year, where
Yep.
Clemson beat SMU and SMU got in, which was fine.
Exactly. I think the committee is Big 12 curious and not very ACC curious. I am okay with Notre Dame being on a track to get in at 10-2 and Miami not, if they have the same record, which is awkward because the game should matter and Miami beat Notre Dame. There have been cases in the past where this has come up, and during the mid-year rankings, the committee has done this before where it's had teams with the same records at either the same conference or the same power conference affiliation or power conference level, and they've put the team that lost the head-to-head ahead of them. I don't know if they've actually done that at the end of a season. Came up with Texas and Alabama in 2023, and I think it was the absolute right call to see Texas ahead of Alabama that year based on an early season win for Texas. But in this case, like, we can follow the trajectories of the teams, and there's just such a gap between what Miami has looked like and what Notre Dame has looked like of late that I don't have a beef with it if Miami winds up boxed out by a team that they beat that has the same record.
Well, the easiest thing to me to do is just judge them on their second loss. And Miami's second loss is awful, where Notre Dame's isn't. So that's just kind of how I parse it. And remember, your records are otherwise, like, they use head-to-head as a tiebreaker when your resumes are otherwise comparable. That's why Texas is sitting there ahead of Oklahoma. That's why Virginia is sitting there right ahead of Louisville. They judge those teams as otherwise comparable, then take the head-to-head to split the baby there. How about Hail to Pitt sitting there at 24, huh?
Pitt's path is to win the ACC. But yeah, they are there. They have been a different team since they made the quarterback change. There are a few teams in here that, it's just kind of hard to see how they could move up much. Like
Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt could be Tennessee, I guess.
But I think, like, if you look in like the range from like 16 to 20, where it's Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech, Miami, USC, and Iowa, that's 4 teams there: Georgia Tech, Miami, USC, and Iowa, whose path is just find a way to win your conference. And in Miami's case, in fact, in all of those cases, it's really unlikely. So
USC and Iowa's path directly hinges on beating Oregon in the next 3 weeks.
Yes, but can USC and Iowa? I should know this.
Some carnage would have to happen. And
do
Ohio
USC
State
and Iowa see each other before? Yeah, they do. They see each other in 2 weeks. So USC and Iowa, only one of them can survive. Yeah. Like, they might both be eliminated by that point, depending on what happens with Oregon and Iowa this week. But that's the one that, in theory, one of those teams could go 10-2, miss the Big Ten championship, and make it.
The only team that I actually like, Tennessee being ranked is insane to me. Give Memphis your token number 25 spot.
Yeah, I would agree.
The highest ranked G5. The Tennessee thing, like, enough. Yeah. It's enough, man.
Yeah. For the moment, it also is looking still to me like it's going to be the American champ, whoever it is, taking that last spot. But it clearly will be the 12th spot this year, as opposed to the 3 seed that Boise got last year. But I think it would have been, the 10 or 11, if not ranked, for the seeding.
Yeah.
That was Tuesday night. Also Tuesday night, there was a Big MAC game, Ohio 24, Miami 20.
Really disrespecting UMass and Akron.
Well, I'll tell you about the good MAC game because you have a note on UMass Akron, which you paid attention to. I'm impressed. I think that Ohio and Miami are the 2 best teams in this conference, and now they're both 4-1 in the league. This is not a show that tries to make sense of tiebreakers in real time.
Nope.
We will never be that because it's gotten ridiculous. But there's a chance that they both see each other again in a month, and I think that would be a good matchup.
Akron 44, UMass 10. One of the worst flea flickers you will ever see in a football game was attempted in this one, where the running back, I think it was the Bengals a couple weeks ago. The running back got the flea flicker handoff, and instead of pitching it back, realized in real time that the pitch was probably going to get intercepted. So he literally just ran the ball and got a big gain. I think it was Chase Brown, but I'm not all the way sure. The opposite of that happened in the UMass Akron situation. And then later in the game, I think it was in the second half, but later in the game, Akron was on like the 10-yard line going in. They fumbled the quarterback running back mesh point exchange. And the ball perfectly bounces back to the quarterback, a la 2012 LSU Florida LSU fake field goal, where it just quite literally pops right back up into the guy's hands. It was honestly pretty impressive. Then the quarterback is running into the end zone and then fumbles on the goal line. UMass gets the ball. A few plays later, however, UMass has its own quarterback-running back failed exchange in which Akron is then able to score. Again, Akron ended up winning the game. UMass remains with 0 wins.
Wednesday action as weeknight games in this conference continue. We've got NIU at Toledo as the best of this night. Disappointing year as it's shaping up for Toledo. They will be fine here. They're playing a worse team that's about to hightail it on out to the Mountain West. But Toledo is wasting a top 40 defense by SP Plus this year because, and this will sound familiar to longtime listeners of the program, they got 2 MAC losses by a combined 6 points, which has just been standard for them in certain years. Meanwhile, their 2 wins in the league are by 42 and 35 over Kent and Akron. It's a tough one for Jason Candle because the offense is so bad that it's not really a get out of there as an offensive coordinator somewhere thing, as he tried to do with Miami a couple years ago. They got Junior Vandeross, big-time player, wide receiver, will be all conference for sure. But they'll take care of business in this game.
How are we going to watch Maction and Thursday Night Football given the current state of the world?
Yeah. I need this YouTube TV thing to be resolved, man.
Yeah.
Me and 9.4 million other people.
Me too.
Yeah. I'm not going to take sides in this one. I'm tired of it in terms of... I'm not going to watch the Disney commercials and then go on and threaten Google over this. Like, I'm not going to do corporate side choosing. But I will say that I think people have gotten wrong what's happening with Disney on this. I've seen a lot of posts.
In the ESPN is pushing people to just buy the ESPN app. Yeah.
I think that people are wrong about that, which I actually think is,
I agree.
I think it's interesting. Disney really does not want you to cut the cord or cut the YouTube TV in this case and go to that app. And in a vacuum, people would think, oh, you would, because ESPN gets about $15 a month in carriage fees from all of us with our pay TV subscriptions.
Disney does.
Excuse me. Well, yes. They get about $30 a month or $15 a month from all of us in carriage fees. They get about $30 a month if you subscribe to the ESPN Unlimited app thing, the direct to consumer. And so you would think, wow, like 30 is more than 15. You would want that. But ESPN and Disney really do not want to kill the remaining cable bundle.
Well,
because all of us sports fans, I'll get your thought, but sports fans who are in that cable bundle are really important to them. Because if there are enough of us being sports fans with the pay TV subscriptions, then Disney can still leverage YouTube TV, Comcast, for whoever, to force every person in America to pay for ESPN, whether they watch sports or not. And that's, so they're getting $15 a month off of people who never watch sports. And if everyone went to the ESPN DTC app, couldn't do that anymore. So I think your conspiracy theories about ESPN dragging this out so that they get people off of cable is not right.
You're missing something here. What you're missing is that if you just have ESPN and you're the ESPN direct-to-consumer app for $30 a month, the thing that you're missing there is that there is a worry that, for instance, football fans would only get that app and then get rid of it after football season. What they look fondly upon, I should probably say, in the cable bundle is you have the cable bundle and you don't cancel it because there's other sports that you have in the off season that you may pay attention to. Like, I don't cancel my YouTube TV because I watch a lot of soccer, for instance. Yeah. That's what I do. And golf, obviously. I watch soccer and golf in the off season. And so I keep my YouTube TV because YouTube TV's got my soccer and my golf. And in September, my football comes back. Well,
and you can do it with YouTube TV. You can't do that with most actual cable, kind of lumping it all together as pay TV. But yeah, so I don't think that ESPN has any real interest in killing cable. I think they'd very much prefer not to do that. But yeah, make a deal, fellas. I did my Fubo free trial for a day or two. It worked well. And I would switch, but I just don't. As a consumer, I would just like this to be simple. So make a deal. I'm unimpressed by all of you not making a deal. I will say, Richard, that this is actually a perfect time to tune into the College Football Blitz, which is free on the Varsity Network app. You think of it as the college football version of Red Zone. Nonstop action every Saturday, noon to midnight Eastern. Got a lot of teams, a lot of games. Just open the Varsity Network app and search for College Football Blitz to keep the excitement going on your Saturdays. On Thursday night, Georgia Southern at App State. They call it Deeper Than Hate, Richard, in Boone, North Carolina. Not a great year for either of these teams, but App has a pretty good chance to make a bowl, and I would expect The Rock to be very full and loud for this game, as it usually is for App games, but particularly this one against the team that they care about. Most recently, App was seen benching J.J. Cole, their quarterback, late in a loss to Arkansas State. A.J. Swan from Vandy, who had gotten benched himself, came back, played well, wasn't enough. Dow Loggan's not saying who's going to play for them, but it's a big game. Georgia Southern moving backward this season. They're 3-5. Not pretty. They got a good wide receiver, Camden Brown. But otherwise, it's not what you want.
UTSA-USF. UTSA continuing to basically ruin, or at least put a significant dent in, the Americans' playoff candidates. Would be a very funny subplot to the Roadrunners season if they're able to get that done here.
I don't think they're going to be able to get it done here. I just think USF's going to score too many points. I think USF's going to score too many points in all of their remaining regular season games. They should be close to 40 in just about all of these. UTSA defensively, I just don't think is going to be up to this one. Also, I think the last time that USF played at home was a weeknighter and they had like 45,000 people at Ray J. I would expect that they're going to have another substantial crowd at this game. I'm really fond of these good Thursday and Friday night games when you get them.
Raiders, Broncos also on Amazon.
Pass.
Yeah, I guess the Broncos are good, but I watched the Raiders last week when the Jags beat them in overtime, and besides Brock Bowers, there is nothing to see there. And also Jacoby Myers now plays for the Jags, so there's absolutely nothing to see there. God love Geno.
Tulane and Memphis.
Is Brendan Lewis like quietly the best mobile quarterback in the country, or the best running quarterback in the country?
Close. It's probably Taylon Green. Scrambles and designed runs all in. That's total yardage, yards per run, expected points added per run. But Brendan Lewis has totally transformed the Memphis offense, as we talked about thinking he might back in the preseason. By EPA per rush, I'll give you a shocking list of the top running quarterbacks in the country. You will not guess who number one is, unless you're looking at my notes.
I'm actually not. I'm not looking at them right now. I have another tab.
Take a wild guess. EPA per run, not yards per run, but this means very effective in short yardage, scores touchdowns, etc.
In EPA per run, is it somebody that's going to annoy? Is it like Dante Moore or something? Somebody that's like really going to annoy me? Is it Gunnar Stockton? Is it Gunnar Stockton?
Close. He's two. Number one is Mark Gronowski.
Wow. Okay. All right.
He's a very effective running quarterback because he's so good in short yardage and he's so good at doing it on 3rd and 4th down.
By the way, I'm glad you brought that up. We will come back to that later in the day, later on Saturday.
But also right up there, Gunnar Stockton, Luke Altmaier, because if you take out sacks, he's a really good runner. So the sack numbers kind of make the official rushing stats look bad for him. Taylor
Where's
Green.
Jackson Arnold on? Just
nowhere near the top.
Okay. All right.
Nowhere near the top. Alonzo Barnett, James Madison is up there. Brendan Lewis is also up there. So interesting mix of running quarterbacks this year. Also Friday night, Northwestern at USC.
Am I nuts for thinking there's a glimmer of hope here for Northwestern? Or am I good? Am I being too cute on that one?
You're pushing it, in my opinion. Not nuts, but pushing it.
USC does. You kind of got to credit USC. They're playing like all the good defenses in
a row.
The Big Ten. Yeah, in a row, and they are acquitting themselves quite fine. I think USC deserves a lot of credit for that. As somebody who has negged Lincoln over the last few years for kind of losing the identity there at late stage Oklahoma and not really being able to find it so far at USC, obviously they very much have something going there.
King Miller at running back, who's their not first, not second running back, former walk-on, has been kind of a revelation for them. And this is probably the best defense that he's had at USC. The only other contender would be last year's. I think we're going to learn more on that front next week when they go and play Iowa. The only thing that I will neg Lincoln on is that he really has to cut out the bitching about travel and schedules. He's doing it all the time.
He did it again.
Hey, man, they played a late game on Saturday in Lincoln, and he was being smart about how, and then we got to play on Friday night. Give back the check.
Yeah, you know that I don't care with that
I just don't
regarding
care.
football teams.
I don't care.
It is what it is. You're a
I don't
football
care. But
team,
specifically in this case, like, give back the check. get back the check. I don't care. You're right. And it's like you're playing once a week. I understand you would rather have 12 more hours or 4 more hours or whatever, but I cannot get behind this kind of complaint.
I mean,
particularly in the case of the Big Ten.
You remember Texas literally refused to move the Ohio State-Texas opener to Sunday night because they didn't want to create an artificially short week against UTSA I think it was UTSA at home the next week.
Sounds right. University of Georgia at Mississippi State. We moved to the Saturday early slate. I don't remember if I initially forgot to put this on the notes.
I think you did.
Or if I looked at it and said,
the first time
if I looked at it briefly and said, yeah, I'm not interested in this. But this is some year of parity stuff. The Dogs are only 8-point favorites in this game. They might have to sweat it despite this being an apparent mismatch.
Yeah, I mean, they had to sweat it last week against a team that's not that good. I do think they will have to sweat it in this game as well. How do they generate, where do they generate the explosive play is going to be the subplot of Georgia's run to January. It's going to come up next week. It's next week when they play Texas. It's going to come up next week when they play Texas. It's the thing that I'm going to harp on about this Georgia team. Gunnar Stockton and their ability to find ways to win consistently because of, you can call it championship mentality. You can call it the way that they adjust over the course of the game. You could talk about all the different things that have created Georgia in the strength of being the efficient, solid team that they are this season. But at the end of the day, at some point in time, they are going to run into a team that they are going to have to find a way to explosive play their way out of it, similarly to what they did against Tennessee.
Yeah, where they really explosive played their way out of it in the nick of time. Yeah. I think I would lean towards this Georgia team taking another loss between Texas and Georgia Tech, though.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be Georgia Tech. That was the problem.
I don't know, man. It was really close last year, and Georgia Tech's gotten better this year, and this game is, it'll be very red. It'll be very red, but it's not a home game for Georgia, so that will change things, even though it's at the Benz. Also be on the lookout for a major event next weekend in Athens as part of Home Field's Campus Kickoff Tour presented by Modelo. Live show with our dear friends Ryan Nanny and Stephen Godfrey. That will be at Union Fair Friday night, November 14th. Doors open at 7. Show begins at 8:30. Post-event meet and greet with the fellas. I can attest they're a very good time. Free Modelo with your ticket purchase. It's a $30 ticket. Home Field Georgia pop-up shop. Collectible Home Field Phantom Island gift with entry. Great vibes all around. I'm told that Graham Coffey and Lucy Roden, two very fun people, will be there as well. And it's not a hard sell. It's Athens. It's a great event with good people. The Home Field Campus Kickoff Tour presented by Modelo. James Madison at Marshall. So the way it's shaping up for James Madison is that they're probably going to be 12-1 with the best win of Old Dominion.
Yeah, but you have we've talked about this, which is, are you taking a 2-loss American team, or are you taking a 1-loss James Madison? Or are you taking out, how many losses does Boise even have?
Boise's out. San Diego State is the only possibility for the Mountain West.
Or are you taking San Diego State?
The answer is going to be the American team based on what we're seeing from the committee right now. Yeah. But from James Madison's perspective, maybe if things got super squirrely and the American champ somehow had 3 losses, which is only the most remote possibility, but who knows? So James Madison's still going to play games with some degree of national playoff relevance here. They are coasting. Like, that's where you have to find it, because they're going to coast to the Sun Belt East title, in my opinion. Defense is really impressive. You can only beat who you beat. And I think it's notable that despite Sig rolling out of town 2 years ago with literally the whole defense, including the coordinator, they stayed good at that last season and have been really good on that side of the ball again this year. 2 edge rushers, Sahir West and Amar Thomas, are pressure machines for the Dukes.
Yeah. I don't know. I like James Madison a lot, and it's going to kind of be a shame that the plucky G5 team isn't going to make it in over probably a 2-loss team. But granted, San Diego State, the team of split zone duo.
I mean, the American champ could definitely be a 1-loss team too.
Yeah.
Very possible, depending on how it goes. We're going to look at it. We're going to see SMU at Boston College. Did you catch Bill O'Brien's very animated interaction with the local press the other day?
Yes, and a buddy of mine clipped it because at the end, I guess he's addressing the next reporter, and he says, "What's up, Trevor?" And a Jags friend clipped that for me.
Okay. Yeah, Bill O'Brien someone was winding up to ask him, how he's feeling.
In fact, Alex, let's just run it.
Let's run the tape. Love that.
Coach, wondering, do you have a message for the fans? Obviously losing to Notre Dame Catholic school rival, 1-8 now in the season BC. I've heard from a lot of fans. They're just really
I'm really glad. I'm glad you're down. I'm not down. Nobody's down. We're fighting. We're competing. It's the second year of this program, Mike. You always come in here with these down questions. Like, you show up like once a month or something like that. You come in here with these down questions. I'm not down. I don't know what year you graduated from BC, but this is a program that we're building. Okay. Nobody here's down. We're positive. We're going to show up and play our asses off against SMU. You can go out there in your dark, clouded world or whatever it is and do what you want to do. We're not down. The sun is up, and we're fighting. That's my message to the fans. What's up, Trevor?
Don't mind the fire from Bill O'Brien. A little silly, when you're 1-8, in my opinion. But I guess you'd rather have that than having a guy who would roll over. And I didn't think it was outrageously mean to the reporter. I mean, not super nice, but okay. You have a note in here. Do we care at all about the Notre Dame game? As in Boston College keeping that close, you're asking?
Yes. I was not on the hurry up presented by Dadwater on Sunday.
It was not. No, we don't. That game was only close because Notre Dame has unsolvable kicking problems to the tune of 2 missed extra points, a missed 35-yard field goal, and for good measure, a fumble at the goal line in that game. That's the only reason why it was a 2-score game instead of more. The only reason that this team's not going to go 1-11 is that they get to play a Syracuse team that literally maybe has no quarterback.
Yeah, that is a tough one. That was a tough watch Friday night.
SMU, by the way, is not totally dead in the ACC race. That was a very nice Miami win for them. I just am not a believer in this year's SMU in any significant way.
No, we haven't been since the season preview.
No, we've been pretty clear on this one. They just don't have the ground game post Bashard Smith, who's in the NFL now, to be on that level. They did bully Miami down in overtime last week, but I just don't think SMU is going to have quite enough in the tank. Not a terrible step back year for them by any means after making the playoff last year, but overall, I don't think they're quite there. I do think that they will win in Chestnut Hill on Saturday. Southern Miss at Arkansas State. Big one in the Sun Belt. If Southern Miss wins, they're going to coast to the west. If Arkansas State wins, Arkansas State is suddenly looking really good in the Sun Belt West. There's a potentially squirrely 3-way situation with Troy as well. Many possible scenarios. Southern Miss has not won 5 straight games in a decade. They would achieve that here. It's kind of an interesting coaching job that Charles Huff is doing because they got no run game to speak of, no receiver with more than 300 yards, and yet they find a way to move the ball enough to win games. Braylon Braxton's a fun quarterback. They take their shots. They could go from 1 to 10 wins in a year, especially with conference championship bowl opportunities. I mean, they could 10x. That's AI startups. They're an AI startup. They could 10x in his first year on the job.
To the moon, et cetera, et cetera. DeMarcus Hendricks for Arkansas State, interesting players. Got 5 sacks, racking them up. They have honestly generated some sacks as Arkansas State. That's about as kind as I can be about it. That's a bad team.
Colorado at West Virginia. I want your thoughts on the Deion thing because I didn't get him on Sunday while we had Roger Sherman in the hot seat on the... Didn't get your thoughts on Sunday while we had Roger on the Hurry Up presented by Dadwater.
Obviously, nobody is having a good time there. If you want to project what Deion's going to do, congratulations. Or I should say good luck is what I mean. I don't know what Deion's going to do. I don't really think anybody does. I find that trying to predict outright what Deion is going to do often ends up because he is... When I say contrarian, I don't mean the Ben Shapiro contrarian thing. I mean he just does pretty much the opposite of the flow of what conventional wisdom may give you or whatever. I think a lot of that is both in his professional life as an athlete and in his life as a media person and his life. I think it has led him to a lot of success. But I take that as how I view predicting what he's going to do in this job, for instance, and what he's going to do in the future. What I would predict is that you probably got to make some wholesale staff changes at Colorado if he's going to stick around next year, if he's going to give it a go. We know, one thing I also know is that Deion is a very, very fierce competitor. I'm sure that, and we mentioned this, like, it's probably his rough. I mean, this is his roughest stretch of games. Like, you can laugh about what did they end up going that first season? 3-9,
4-8,
4-8. Yeah, 4-8 after the 3-0 start or whatever it was.
and they're going to wind up probably right there again this year.
Right.
It's likely.
But this one, what I mean is, this one looks a lot different, I think, than that one. That one had some hope. Travis got hurt. They obviously had Shador, all that stuff, and the receivers and all that stuff. This is different. I mean, they're just getting completely outclassed week in and week out, and they can lose this game too by a wide margin because West Virginia may have found something with Scotty Fox, freshman quarterback thrust into duty, who's there like QB3, maybe 4, maybe found something.
Yeah, they might have. Maybe. And the only reason I give it a maybe is that Rich Rodriguez has a good track record of just figuring this out. I don't know if I'd call him QB4, but he's one of 4 who has played for them this year.
Yeah.
And this is the best shot left for either of these teams to win a game. It's been a pretty bleak first year, actually, for Rich Rod. I mean, he has a worse team than any team that Neil Brown had in this job. I don't know if I would make anything of that just because it's the first year. But there's no offensive explosion here, not even very much down-to-down efficiency. They just beat Houston and scored 45 last week, but that was heavily Houston-assisted with a lot of giving them the ball. So we'll see. Someone will get to have a brief moment of joy on Saturday. 2 that were taken together here, Indiana at Penn State and Ohio State at Purdue. What do you want to do with these?
We haven't really talked about Julian Sayin a lot. Julian Sayin, obviously stunningly accurate as a quarterback. The most important thing I think from this Ohio State offense is that they've been able to find Carnell Tate. Carnell Tate has come along, I should say. We have squinted at the running game. I don't think it's as big of a deal as you do, but we'll see. The very funny thing is, did you notice Ohio State launched the Julian Sayin Heisman campaign? And also the Jeremiah Smith Heisman campaign, because you can't really credibly say the quarterback is the Heisman threat when you've got the best receiver in the country too. I just think it's a funny, potentially splitting vote situation in kind of the maybe the Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart vein of things way back when.
Well, you know what's funny though is that Carnell Tate is at 15 yards per target and Jeremiah Smith's at 10. They have identical receiving yardage on, 50% more targets for Jeremiah.
I think some of that has to do with the gravity of that number 4 sucks up. With
100%. 100%. But Heisman voters are herd animals.
It's fair.
Yeah, I'm not coming out here talking crazy like, is Jeremiah Smith Ohio State's best receiver? Like, yeah, but I think it could be relevant from an awards consideration perspective for him because people like to have the savvy take. And I mean, if you got a couple gin and tonics in me, you could get me talking about like, is he really? Is he the best on the team? Yeah. If I wanted to be that way, I could be that way.
I'm curious also Heisman wise about Mendoza. If you're keeping him in the game longer, if you're Indiana, so that he himself can rack up some counting stats towards a certain stiff arming trophy awarded in New York City the second week in December. 3rd week in December?
Sayin is having one of the best debut starter seasons by quarterbacks since at least we've been doing this podcast. The numbers are fantastic. He looks fantastic. They've only really played one great defense, and that was Texas, and he wasn't very good in that game, but it was week 1. And since then, they've played a bunch of fine to non-terrible defenses, and he just dices them up every week. I think what's impressive is that he has been picked or sacked on 3% of his dropbacks. That's a top 5 mark in the sport, and he is doing it with a lot less throwing it behind his own line of scrimmage and such than the other Power 4 guys who are in that stratosphere with him. He's a big game hunter who still does not make a lot of mistakes, and yeah, it helps to have number 4 and number 17. Carnell Tate, we're 17, right?
I think it is.
Yeah.
Are you? But not Carnell Tate. I like Carnell Tate, but Carnell Tate does not get the jersey number treatment. That is reserved for the best of the best. Number 4 gets that. Carnell Tate does not get that. Yet great player, but does not get that. Do you want to do the? Are they better this year than next year? Or do you want to wait until the Michigan game? We can wait until the Michigan game if you want.
Better this year than next year?
Last year. Sorry, last year. I'm sorry.
Interesting. I was wondering if you were looking for a 2026 Big Ten preview.
No.
I'm not yet prepared to do. Sure.
We could do it. We could do it around the Michigan game.
We're a podcast. It doesn't really matter. They won the national championship last year.
Sources do tell me that they did. Yes.
So I would say no, because they won the national championship last year.
Fair.
I see what you're getting at. They might be a touch better on defense this year, and they were great on defense last year.
Which to me is the weird thing, because they lost like all of that defense, at least all of it up front, which was the thing that I kind of...
They've had some new guys come on, I think, even stronger than thought.
Right. That my theory of the case with why they were maybe going to drop off, and again, we're all adults here. We know what Ohio State dropping off really would have looked like. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you're right. And you've been saying it since the Washington game or before the Washington game that there's something serious on defense. I do wonder if they are, I don't want to do the Michigan preview now, but I do wonder if they are specifically building to win that game in the way that you know what I mean. Yes, they always care about beating Michigan. Yes, it's something they think about 364 days a year when they are not on the field against Michigan. But I do wonder if they are orienting a lot of this ship to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, they have a very nice collection of edge rushers. And I would guess that if Michigan's going to beat them again, Michigan will have to do it the way they did the first win in this streak. Remember, I think it was 21, where they just bulldoze.
Yeah, the one that was the one in the snow in Ann Arbor.
In Ann Arbor, like I think that's what it would have to be, because like Bryce is not gonna go out there, and we'll get to it in week 14 or whatever. But it's not like he's gonna set the world on fire through the air in that game, given what Ohio State has. Anyway, Indiana mentioned in this segment means telling you right now, home field game breaker jackets being unveiled to the world on Friday of this week. You will want to get one. Never too early to get that early gift for yourself or for someone you love. I demanded to see a prototype or a few via text message the other day. I am sworn to secrecy, but you will want your schools. I like everything home field does, but I am personally a guy who thinks that outerwear and jackets are where this brand really sets itself just miles apart from anyone else who's selling licensed stuff for your favorite team. These things look incredible. Be on the lookout.
They are. Yes, they are very good.
Be on the lookout on home field socials and, of course, homefieldapparel.com on November 7th, which is Friday. Missouri State at Liberty. Quick shouts to the Missouri State Bears, Richard. I think they're in order here.
Maybe we need to talk about that it's a little bit easier to come up from FCS to FBS than it ever has been. I don't know. Maybe we should talk about that in the offseason.
They are looking for 4 in a row here. They have a good chance to win 6 or 7 games in their first year up in Conference USA. They have one okay win. They beat Marshall earlier this year. For the most part, they're just feasting on a bad league, but someone's got to be at the top of the league. Someone's got to be winning those games, and someone's got to be losing them. And they're 3-1 in the league in their debut season. Nobody other than USC in week 1 has hit 30 points against them. So nicely done by Missouri State. You are doing a lot better in your first year in FBS than I thought you were. That closes out the noon slate on Saturday. Middle slate. All right, Richard. This is the game that I'm most excited about on this day. Oregon at Iowa.
3:30 on CBS, by the way. I mentioned it 2 weeks ago when we started orienting it towards this game. Iowa can absolutely win this game. Oregon is going to come into a situation where we've seen them get beaten up by Indiana a couple weeks ago. They are going to Kinnick for this game. You understand it's going to be an absolute powder keg of an atmosphere. It's going to be a lot of fun. Place is going to be crazy. You know exactly how Iowa is going to play this game. There will be 10.5 possessions in the game. Iowa will try to get them in a phone booth and try to beat them up. We'll try to get something on special teams in the hidden yardage game to do it. I think you just run Gronowski into the ground in this game.
You know what his line's going to be? I think we all know what it's going to be. 10 of 22 passing for 97 yards with a pick, 2 rushing touchdowns on 14 carries for 91 yards.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, easy. Like I don't know if you're a prop betting person, but run, don't walk. Like,
That's what it's going to be.
If Iowa wins this game, you know exactly how it is going to happen. You're going to force Dante Moore, I think, to really step up. Really, really step up. He did it. I can't believe I'm referencing back to the Penn State game, but he did it in the Penn State game.
He did it, yes. That's what I said in the opening.
However, I would argue he did not do it against Indiana. Now, some of that is because he's moving on the ground a lot in that game, but I think they're going to try to force Dante Moore to be a big boy in this game again, and we'll see if he can do it. I would give that Indiana team hell a couple weeks ago.
Look, this is a great Iowa defense. Again, I think it's a slightly different Iowa defense because, Richard, who's the best player on this Iowa defense?
Yeah, they don't have
the clear-cut first-team All-American star the way that they very often have the last handful of years. Like Jack Campbell and Cooper DeJean, Jay Higgins, I think might have been first team, got very high national honors. I don't know if we've even talked about Iowa defensive players by name a single time this year. And Ferentz was asked this week, who's your best defensive player? And he didn't even name someone, which is sort of Ferency coach speak, but I think is real. They're just getting a lot of good contributions. Max Llewellyn, edge rusher, has a massive pressure count. They got a safety.
The other edge is
they got a safety, Xavier Nwankpa, who is definitely one of the best players in the Big Ten. But overall, nothing on the stat sheet unit wide is shockingly great. They don't get that many pressures, but they basically just don't give up big plays ever for any reason. And they make you pitter patter down the field with a bunch of 3-yard runs and they get you in like 3rd and 5 and you have to convert a couple of those to score. And
it's the
same thing.
It's the Iowa thing. Like you know exactly how this is going to go. I do wonder if your concern about Oregon's receivers shows up. Like Decorian, we want to talk about being a big boy. Decorian Moore is going to have to be a big boy in this game. They're going to rough him up, or at least they're going to try to.
Yeah. It's going to be, Iowa is going to be very competitive in this game. I'm pretty convinced of it. I think that Iowa will probably mess up at some point, whether it be in this game or down the stretch. I don't think they're going to pay off my playoff pick of them. Or maybe I replaced them with USC. I think it was USC that I put in the playoff. But anyway, I'm putting it on the line this week. They're the Dabwater Home Dog of the Week. We've picked 9 of these, only underdogs to win home games this year.
I do not think Iowa's going to win this game. We're split. The ticket is split here.
Okay. Well, 6 of the 9 have won.
I do think Iowa, we're not taking on the spread. We don't do it against the spread. I am taking Iowa to cover, though, again, because you know exactly how this game
if you were a vested interest type and you had been tailing us, which is not why we do this, it's not a tout show, you would be 9-0.
It's not why we do this, but we'd be 9-0. It's not why we do this, but you would be 9-0, just to be clear.
It's not why we do it. We don't take any particular pride in it, but we would be 9-0.
No, you would be 9-0.
That won't last forever, but thank you to Dadwater for your sponsorship of this show and being the presenter of the Sunday Hurry Up. We put a link to get a discount on Dadwater if you're in a place where you can order such things over the internet. It's right in our show notes. Go and find it. We'd love for you to check it out if you're interested.
This is I really think this would be a massive culture win for Dan Lanning to say, because last year they did this too last year in September, where it was maybe they're not physically ready to go. Got beat up against Boise, won that game, but got beat up against Boise, didn't look up for it, shuffled some stuff in the offensive line, and figured some stuff out. Similar spot here. You take the L early in the season. How are you able to rally the troops, adjust, and get better? That's the thing that I think Oregon can do, especially given the week off. But Iowa also had a week off to prepare for this game.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
They're going to be hitting.
It's gonna be a fun one.
They're going to be hitting. Great tasting tequila water, Dad water with 4 natural ingredients, no sugar, no carbs, or gluten. And I think they have a great taste in podcast sponsorship as well. Richard, Syracuse at Miami. Fear for Syracuse in this one.
That was tough. Friday night. Tough. I don't even know who goes at quarterback here. Miami's going to win. That's all I got.
That's fine. Moving on. A&M at Missouri. Are you positive that Missouri is not pulling a backup QB theory upset here? Like positive about it?
Yeah. I don't think this A&M team it messes around here. I think
Cassius Howe might kill this quarterback, Zollers.
Yes.
And actually, but I am interested in this because Missouri had a bye. They brought in Zollers, who remember he's a freshman. He's the third string guy because their first backup got hurt weeks ago.
They did. I mean, they banged with Vanderbilt, but I do think we're getting
moved the ball.
Yeah, I know.
And then they had a bye to get them ready.
I don't think. I do imagine they'll have a little razzle dazzle, but I don't know that they're going to have.
Yeah, I am afraid that the Elko A&M operation is just pretty much the worst that you could be playing this week in this first start scenario. So, if they could win this game, that would be wildly impressive by the young man playing quarterback for Mizzou, Matt Zollers. Auburn at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's still in the race, very much so. It's their form if they go out and grab it, but they're going to have to close a pretty tough end to the season.
I mean, Auburn's going to give them hell. I tell you that right now, especially on defense. Auburn is going to give them hell.
Probably so. By the way, thank you to everyone who subscribed to splitzoneduo.com. We've been doing a lot of coaching content over there lately, including our Auburn quasi-emergency show when they finally got around to firing Hugh Freeze. It's in your podcast feeds now if you're a subscriber at splitzoneduo.com. You can listen to those episodes in the same exact feed that you listen to the free episodes in. It takes just like 2 or 3 seconds to set up. Very, very easy.
The much funnier thing here would be, and you have it in the notes, the much funnier thing would be Auburn winning this game and then losing to Mercer in a couple weeks, which is one of the better FCS teams this season.
Yeah, that's probably not going to happen, but I do think that the next few weeks are an interesting culture case for Auburn. You know that I love to psychoanalyze 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, football players. It's one of my favorite things to do on the show. This team has a lot of guys who are very desirable in the portal, would be, led by Cam Coleman, but including lots of players on both sides. Xavier Atkins, the linebacker from LSU, who I think is not draft eligible yet. Tackle machine for them on a good defense. Are these guys expecting to return after they hire whoever they hire? Do they want to come back? Is this a case where you have guys who might be trying to build culture at the end of the year now that they are no longer led by Hugh Freeze and they might come together and play well? Or, does Cam Coleman realize I got to leave after the year. I got to go and get numbers next year somewhere. I don't really care what's happening the next 4 weeks. These are open questions. But if Auburn cares, they could get Vandy or could get Alabama if they care. It's a home Iron Bowl.
I agree. I totally agree.
I didn't write this ad copy, by the way, but 3 differences between Nokian Tires and Hugh Freeze. Nokian Tires products won't freeze. They invented the winter tire, and their compounds stay soft and responsive in cold weather. They keep innovating instead of sticking with what worked a decade ago. There's pothole protection, crystals inside the tread to improve winter grip. Nokian Tires does not rest on its record against a single tire maker in the early 2010s. It's great on the road, too. Unlike Hugh Freeze's 6-8 record away from Jordan-Hare Stadium, Nokian Tires products can travel anywhere and succeed. This company invented the all-weather tire to provide peace of mind in all conditions, from snow to summer heat. And now, Wes, we're going to let Hugh Freeze rest. Thank you to Nokian Tires for your support of this podcast.
Your bowl-eligible Kennesaw State Owls against New Mexico State. Thought the Bohannon firing, the way they did it last year, was obviously sloppily done. Not really great business, but getting Jerry Mack in was very great business. Jerry Mack is this week's Minority Coach of the Week, an interesting schematic spot. Again, Alex, that's not a portender predictor of schematic success. That's simply taking a certain coach in a certain spot and saying, that's interesting. Bowl Owls, already done and dusted, 6 wins in the bank. They're going to the postseason. Everything is gravy. They're probably going to end up 8-4, like at minimum here, splitting the last 2. I mean, you could squint at it and see 10 wins, but you're probably going to settle at like 8-4, which is massive for Kennesaw State. Again, maybe we readjust how hard it really is to come up and get it done immediately in the portal era. Maybe that is a prior we need to throw out. Kennesaw State is really, really acquitting themselves quite well.
Great turnaround season. I wear my Kennesaw State Owls home field tee around Los Angeles with pride. And people ask, what is that? And I say, it's the Kennesaw State Owls. Look out for them. They're going to win 8 or 9 games this year. Get hip to it. Saturday evening, Cal at Louisville. Louisville's got a pretty big injury problem.
Yeah, Isaac Brown, who's good, is going to be hurt for a significant amount of time. I do think that is a huge blow for Louisville. I think he gives them a gear for that offense that I think the backup running back doesn't really give them, and obviously take some stuff off Miller Moss. Obviously, our pal JKS has certainly come back down to earth, but the fireworks remain. The ability for fireworks remain, and so let's see it here against Louisville. We remain on 5-2, becoming 5-7 watch for Cal. They gotta it unfortunately remains, and I think it's gonna march towards that, unfortunately, in this one.
I have to think that if that happens and they
go
lose
5-7, this game by like 3 scores, dude.
If they go 5-7, I have to think that job's going to open. I have to think, like the one that everyone thought was going to open. If they were to finish, would that be 6 in a row to lose?
I think so, or
be 5 in a row.
5
in a row. Sorry, I just have to think that it would. The good thing is that they do kind of sprout running backs. They got Keywan Brown now, Duke Watson probably back, so they're going to still have 2 playable running backs.
Yeah, they're on running back 3, which means that they're really, if you go back to January, on like running back 7, if you really want to do it, because of all the guys who left in the portal. Julian Griffin, by the way, running back.
Sorry. I was pivoting. Yes, I was pivoting back to Louisville running backs, but Cal, yes. Cal. Oh, sorry. Also, yes.
Julian Griffin.
I see the confusion.
Julian Griffin, running backs coach from Cal, is doing a good job there.
A Louisville problem, I think that you have to look at their special teams as being on DEFCON 4 or so right now. They are rotating punters as of week 11. Had a punt blocked last week at Virginia Tech. They are 129th in the nation at 35 net yards per punt. And yet, despite being unable to punt the ball, they are 136th in go rate on 4th down, 135th in go rate in opponent territory. I feel like if you can't get 40 yards on a punt, you should be going for it more often. It hasn't killed him yet, but got a little Jeff Brom game management quibble here as we start to look at what's marginal for Louisville, a team that's trying to make the college football playoff. Figure out the punter or go for it more often would be my advice. Florida State at Clemson. 2 teams who have played themselves back on by being so bad that I want to talk about
it. We don't really talk about the network games are on anymore because of YouTube TV. You just click on the logo and watch the game. This one's on the ACC network, man. Bully to the ACC network for getting this one in prime time, because obviously the logos tell you a story that the actual teams themselves on the field certainly do not.
No. Where are you on Dabo?
I think they have to root and branch, rip it up as far as personnel, scouting, all that kind of stuff. Again, not portaling is not an issue if and only if your scouting and development and deployment is really good for the players that you have on your roster. Georgia, for instance, and even Georgia portals a little bit. That's not the case. They absolutely and unequivocally misevaluated this roster at basically every single position this year, which means the fact that they did not portal then looms largest because of the misevaluations of the roster at hand.
I think you make a very important point about misevaluations of the roster at hand, because I've seen some people, I don't want to overstate some people, but a few people have said, oh, they just got to go portal shopping, right? Like Dabo's got to really get comfortable with the portal. And that's not going to do it. Like, that's not why they're bad this year, is that he hasn't done enough in the portal the last year or two. And granted, they got started a little bit with portal guys last year. This is just a bad roster. This team could finish outside the top 50 in SP+. They haven't developed their quarterback to be better than he was as he was coming up. Their offensive line is not good. They have, I think, a better defense, but still problems there. I feel like the only thing that's really worked out is actually their wide receiver room. And so that doesn't seem to me like a team that you could fix in one offseason.
Well,
if you just hit on a bunch of portal guys.
But the problem is you can. in one off season if you hit a bunch of portal guys. That's kind of the point. Like LSU did, to be fair, fix its defense in one portal cycle. To be fair. Now, they missed on offense, and here they are. But they did fix it. It is a thing. Indiana portal's pretty damn well. Indiana's got 2 portal linemen and a portal running back who are pretty damn good. So, yeah, you can do it. You can flip it, and you can fix it in 1 year. But you have to. That's kind of the promise, the upside, and the downside of the transfer portal. Funny enough, obviously, Clemson's best defensive player is the transfer that they brought in, Will, from Purdue.
Yeah. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because TJ Parker, the other edge, he's a good player, but I thought he was going to be a monster this year. That hasn't happened.
And I don't know what the hell happened to Peter Woods. Peter Woods is going to be a first-round draft pick. All right, we're adults about it. But he is not. You have not gotten the production from him and them that you thought. I thought it was going to be the best defensive line in America.
Yeah, me too. Up there. Anyway, at some point, I think we have to start at least thinking about Dabo's future there. And I just also wanted the Tom Allen thing is just not. Dabo is. I think Dabo wins the war in the hiring outside the family thing, or wins the battle here. Didn't work, yeah,
because of the Tom Allen. The Tom Allen thing has not worked.
All that I will note, because they're playing Florida State, is that Bobby Bowden got soft fired. Eventually, it can happen.
Yeah,
it happens. Jim Boeheim a couple years ago got soft fired in basketball. Like, you don't get these jobs forever and ever, no matter who you are, no matter if you're the most transformative leader they've ever had. And, I think we're getting to that point where you just have to really get a turnaround that does not look to me like it's in the cards, or sometime in the next few years, you know how it goes. Fans of both of these schools, in my opinion, Richard, could really use a Modelo. We thank Modelo for their sponsorship of Split Zone Duo this college football season. The Modelo Recruiter, as you probably heard, is scouting for full-time fans, and they have deputized us, you and me, for general manager type duties. If you're listening to this, you are being recruited. Are we going to take you? Do we have a scholarship for you? Do we have outside NIL booster funds for you? Is it a committable offer? These are decisions that we have to make with the power that Modelo has given us. Grab yourself a Modelo, the official beer sponsor of the college football playoff, which arguably makes this ad read off topic for an FSU Clemson discussion, but we are delighted to have Modelo on board. Thank you. Richard, elsewhere in the ACC, Wake at UVA.
Quiet as it's kept, Wake does have a very nice disruptive player in Langston Hardy. Other than that, they do not have much. That last weekend's Florida State was good night. Virginia will probably get it done here. I imagine they are better than Wake, and they're going to continue to kind of limp this potentially to the ACC championship game.
I think at some point they're going to hit
what do you mean? They got 3 games left.
I know.
They're not losing to Virginia Tech. Don't give me that. This is the year for them against Virginia Tech. They're not going to lose to Virginia Tech. They are not. Come on. They are not going to. Now, Duke is a different story, but they are not.
Are you sure they're not going to lose to Virginia Tech?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
The team stinks, man. Stinks.
Sure is a big word, Richard.
I don't think they're losing to Virginia
Tech. That's a load-bearing sure. I just think that every warning sign is there that eventually they're going to get into some trouble.
And they're just going to lose to Duke.
Right. They could lose a game and still very possibly make the ACC championship. But they got quarterback iffy health over the last few weeks, I think. They've won their last 4 games by 3, 2, 1, and what would have been 3 before a pick 6 in the last minute for against Cal.
And they won.
Offense has not played a great game in a month.
And they won by physically the slimmest margin you can win a football game.
This is the most getting away with it team. And Wake is not. I mean, Wake beat SMU two weeks ago. We'll see. I tend to think it will be next week with Duke, but I don't buy that UVA is going undefeated in the ACC. Personally, I think they're going to hit a problem.
But they have margin because obviously the NC State loss was not a conference loss. God, that's great. It's so great that this specific team is going to continue to go, or at least for now, go undefeated with that non-conference thing. God, that's great.
LSU at Alabama. Is LSU bad enough that Kalen DeBoer could lose to them?
Doubt it, but I do have some, I don't know if it's questions. I'm just very interested in Ty Simpson in this wide receiver core against LSU's pass defense. That's about it. LSU's not really going to move the ball. It's not in Tiger Stadium, so they don't have that thing going on.
We have a longer range talk about Bama being 122 in offensive rushing success rate and 101 in defense rushing success rate. Can't run, can't stop the run. Possibly a long-term problem, I would think.
Well, I do think it could be a Saturday problem if LSU is able to take away the passing game relatively and really force Bama to move. I don't know, but what's the Jam Miller status? I thought James Miller is always hurt.
Yeah, I don't know. And there'll be an availability report after we record this, but I actually think it's worth pointing out why I don't really care. It's because it's not like their running game has been materially different when he's been playing versus when he hasn't been.
I mean, they're better with him. They're clearly better with him, in my opinion.
He has literally the same 3.85 yards per carry that Kevin Riley, the backup, has. Identical to the 100th of a yard.
I think they're better with Jam Miller than without, but yes.
I don't know. I think at some point, I think you have to kind of have a honest conversation about whether this could be a national championship team if they can't run and they can't stop the run. Neither one of them. Maybe you can get by without one or the other.
It's a January problem. I mean, hell, it may be an Oklahoma problem.
Yeah.
And the funny, and I brought this up last night. Let's say things get silly in the Iron Bowl. You would have a Bama team that would have two of the worst losses of any of its compatriots in the college football playoff in or around the college football playoff top 10, especially in the SEC. You'd have a loss to Florida State, which, again, I don't really think matters all that much because Bama is a different team than in that game. But if you pair that with a potential theoretical loss against Auburn, the two horrible losses. Now, then again, they also could just lose to Oklahoma next week. And then it's a pretty decent loss. But when you talk about a lack of running game and something that's fairly one-dimensional, they just go out and lose to Oklahoma next week.
A Bama with two losses or a Bama that makes the SEC championship is making it. Full stop, I feel. But 3 would be, they have some work to do to clinch it. It sounds like they're going to get back Geno Vandermark at right guard. He's been hurt. Their whole offensive line, except Proctor and Brailsford, the left tackle and the center, has been a rotation this year. So maybe they snap into the right combo and fix the running problems, but maybe not. I think Indiana getting to play them in the playoff would be pretty interesting because I think Indiana would physically beat them up, and that would be take Armageddon if that were to happen. But we'll see if we should get a game like that.
And we will be there for the heat death of the Take Universe.
Yeah.
Navy Notre Dame, the annual Service Academy game, one of the annual Service Academy games that Notre Dame has. How are you, Marcus Freeman? And we say this pretty much every time they play a Service Academy game under Marcus Freeman. Marcus Freeman does not really mess around in these games.
No.
Marcus Freeman has obviously the bona fides of being at Cincinnati, playing these teams when he was at Cincinnati, and then obviously at Notre Dame now. I mean, they blew Navy out last year. Was it last year? With like 5 fumbles or whatever it was that Navy had in that game?
Yeah. Marcus Freeman's 3 games against, actually it was close the first year. They won by a field goal. But there was the 42-3 in Dublin, and there was 51-14 in Annapolis last year.
And then there was what they did to Army and Yankee Stadium last year. I was there.
Yep. I agree. Freeman does not look at the triple option and think, oh no, what are we going to do about that? Navy can't stop the run against G5 teams. And so I think we know what's going to happen with Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price carrying the ball. I am curious to see how if Notre Dame is a little bit more malleable against the option than they've been, just because they don't have the dominant defensive tackle play that they've had the past couple of seasons. But they're going to be fine here because there's just no way that Navy is going to be able to stop them from running the ball at will.
Yep. Nightcap, San Diego State at Hawaii. Bowl Hawaii, just so we're clear. Bowl Hawaii, 6-win Hawaii. They have gotten that over the line, thankfully. San Diego State, this is an interesting San Diego State defense, I think, in that they're not great up front, but they are really good on the back end, like really good. And I think that's what powers this. That's what powers this San Diego State team.
They're 13th in defensive SP+, which is opponent adjusted, schedule strength adjusted. That's the computers thinking this is a top 15 or so defense in the game. Also 12th on special teams. It's pretty funny that Sean Lewis is coaching a Brady Hoke team. But
sort of spiritually, in that it is good at defense, but Brady Hoke team would be better.
And not very good on offense. The offense is one guy. It's Jordan Napier, who is going to get some awards probably. Wide receiver for them, plays in the slot. He's good. We talk about him a lot. But the defense is probably the best in the whole group of 5. And it is why they are, in my opinion, the only real shot, but it's still very, very, very remote to be a I'm going to say non-AAC. The American Conference going by just wanting to be the American does not work for me. Because I was going to say they're the only non-American team. But they play in America. It just sounds ridiculous. And also, if you're an all-conference player now, you're an all-American player if you're in the American Conference. So
I think they did that on purpose, to be honest.
I don't know, man. I'm gonna call it AAC. I'm sorry, but this is not a branding thing that I can accede to, because it's intentionally misleading with an adjective that means something different, a proper adjective that means something different to everybody else. Good nightcap. Richard, there is one more game for us to talk about, which we have intentionally skipped over. It'll be the main course presented by Modelo. See you in a moment. It is the main course presented by Modelo. We are talking about BYU and Texas Tech. And if anyone's asking, yeah, we know. We realized it. We tasted all week on the tasting menu, but can't all be in a moose-bouche. And so here we are with the main course brought to you by Modelo, official beer sponsor of the College Football Playoff and of this College Football Podcast. And I am very excited about this week's because we've got a defending champ, one of the great guests, recurring guests in the history of Split Zone Duo, Shahan Jayaraja, national reporter, CBS Sports, joining us on the program. Shahan, welcome back.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been a little while, but don't worry. Between the two fan bases, I think that we'll get a good amount of Modelo drink, even if it's kind of one-sided.
Right. I mean, the average number will net out somewhere in a standard amount. Shahan, this is a huge game. The winner of this game is immediately the favorite to win the Big 12, though they will, of course, have more work to do. You have covered Texas Tech very closely. I would say more closely than anyone else in the national media, really diving in early in last offseason for a great feature at CBS Sports that we'll link in the show notes into how this roster was built. I've already talked to you about that when you were on, I believe, in the Big 12 preview. But has there been anything about how well it's worked that has surprised you in any way?
Well, I think that, look, you can have a plan. You can build a roster on paper, but I do hope that what's happened since then and the level that they've played at does give some credence to the fact that there are some pretty good coaches at Texas Tech as well, that they found a good way to deploy the talent that they have. Obviously, their defensive line is the thing that everything is built around. David Bailey, Romello Height, Lee Hunter, Skylar McGill-Howard before he got hurt. Like, this is one of the best defensive lines in all of college football. But I actually think that, their linebackers have been a huge, not even a surprise, but just a huge part of this team. And all of those guys were homegrown players. Their secondary has played really well as well. They've got some running backs after Quinton Joyner went out who have stepped up. So I do hope that this kind of emphasizes some of what we talked about over the offseason, that, this obviously is a team that brought in some big time players through the transfer portal, but this is a coaching staff. This is a roster that was pretty much ready to go as well. And they've only been able to add to what was already there.
Skylar Gill-Howard injury up front for Texas Tech. I guess this is kind of the first stress test to how that's really gonna work out with them on defense or affect them on defense. Obviously, we know what they have on the edges. Height, Bailey, great. But what they have on the interior is important. And without Skylar Gill-Howard, they are relatively weaker. But have they been able to can they, I should say, make up for that moving forward here?
Well, they've got an All-America caliber player in Lee Hunter at one of the defensive tackle spots. They have some inside linebackers and Jacob Rodriguez kind of leading the way, John Curry on the edge, who are like big time interior players as well. So I think that they can kind of through committee. They don't have another guy who's as dynamic, I would say, on the interior as McGill-Howard. Lee Hunter's a little bit more of a gap filler than necessarily the sort of interior pass rush that maybe you got from McGill-Howard. But they do like what they have there as well. I believe that the kid's name is AJ Holmes, is the guy who's stepped up and replaced them coming over from Houston. He knows Shiel Wood's system really well after playing in it last season. And I think that he's done a serviceable job of filling that role. So it definitely is a damper, but the goal here was always to have a lot of depth and to be able to withstand some injuries. And by the way, Texas Tech has had to withstand a couple of injuries so far this year, not even just Skylar McGill-Howard. And so I don't think that they're super worried about it, but obviously I think they're a better unit with him in the lineup.
Yeah, you mentioned injuries on the other side of the ball. Probably their best pass catcher, Terrence Carter, tight end, out for the season, or out for a significant amount of time, I think. At tight end, they've lost him. The quarterback situation has been, I think, a little weirder than people really acknowledge, right? Like, you have Baron Morton, who got, for instance, hurt in the Utah game. Will Hammond comes in, plays really well. Will Hammond had to spell Baron Morton in a couple games, and now Will Hammond himself is out for the season with an ACL injury. It's Baron Morton's proper full show here. Can Baron Morton stay healthy, and can Baron Morton lead this team to the promised land?
Well, this was always a thing coming into the year, is that, when Morton stays upright, he's been pretty good. It's just that he's never really stayed upright through the first couple of years of his career. And I do think that, one, they've tried to do a good job of kind of balancing his workload a little bit. They're running him a little less than they have in the past. Obviously, they're trying to get the ball out a little quicker. And when you look at the transition from Zach Kittley to Mac Leftwich, I mean, Zach Kittley was more of a sort of pure air raid guy, whereas Mac Leftwich leans a little bit more spread, comes from the GJ Kinney veer and shoot concept. So a little bit of a blend of what they've done in the past. So I think that's a big part of it, is they have tried to make things easier. I will also say a guy who they certainly hope that they don't have to throw out there, but who I think is serviceable, is Mitch Griffiths. They brought him over from Wake Forest. He had played in the past. He kind of had decided to mostly move on from football, but when he got that opportunity, actually what I had kind of been told by some people is the main reason he came to Texas Tech was actually because he felt like it might help his future coaching career. But he obviously has come in and has played a couple of snaps and looked fine. So I don't think that this is a situation where even with Will Hammond out, where if Morton goes down for a few plays, that they just revert into, having to play walk-ons or anything like that. But it certainly is a damper. And I think that the other piece of this as well is that, we talked about in the preseason, Quentin Joyner went out for the season, the USC transfer at running back. That's a guy that they felt like could be like an all Big 12 type player if some things came to fruition. I think that that's forced them to be a little bit more pass heavy than maybe would be ideal. They have two good running backs in Cam Williams and Jacoby Williams, but at the same time, I do think it changes the dynamic when you go from having this deep running back room to maybe you're trying to protect this running back room.
You were the reporter who drew the initial national attention to the very deliberate strategy of Moneyball quarterback, pay for everything else. I feel like this strategy has worked unbelievably well, although I might have to catch myself as it gets into December and January.
But Alex, because we've talked about this. Like, you do not have to have a super quarterback to get the job done in January. Ohio State, TCU got to the game. Georgia won 2 in a row. Notre Dame, Riley Leonard, whatever.
I won't stand for this Max Duggan slander. He was a huge part of that team.
But Max Duggan was not. What I'm talking about when I say what I'm talking about. All right, let's be real here.
They didn't have NFL passers, right? I mean, even like, again, if obviously ended up becoming a really good player, but like Stetson Bennett wasn't the number one pick, right? So it's like
Georgia won 2. Like, so you can do it.
I think so it's interesting, right? There's a couple pieces of this. One, I will say they did just land the number one quarterback in the class of 2027. Yes. So maybe they're adjusting that strategy a little bit. Yes. I do think that what's interesting about this team is that, again, we've talked about their defensive line. It's incredible, like phenomenal. Their offensive line is very good, but I've kind of written about all off season. We've talked about all off season. It's just harder to build a line through the portal, and they have a very good offensive line, but you can't necessarily build elites through the portal the same way. So while I do think that this is a team that has been able to bully a lot of teams, I do wonder when you head into a game against BYU. I think even for stretches against Utah, like, I don't know if it's as easy offensively to just kind of make that stuff happen. I think that's also part of why they've been so pass heavy, is because they know that their biggest advantages right now are actually on the outside with a really deep receiving core, that they can go downfield, that they have a quarterback who obviously can deliver the ball at a high level. So that's something that I'm definitely keeping an eye on. And I'm really curious, especially heading into this match against BYU, one of the few teams in the Big 12 that I think can counter their offensive line, whether that impacts their game plan offensively.
Let's flop over to BYU here and talk about the Cougars. They check in, actually number 7 in the college football playoff, right ahead of Texas Tech in the college football playoff rankings, the initial ones that came out this week. Where are you at on BYU? When does just getting away with it turn into perhaps they are actually good? I would imagine it's probably Saturday night, depending on the result.
I mean, some would make the case that 19-2
Saturday afternoon, Richard, noon,
Thank
game,
you.
11 Central Time.
Yeah,
You,
which kills me, but that's a whole other conversation. But I would say that there's a pretty good case that 19-2 over the course of 2 years is a pretty good representation that this is maybe a team that's a little undervalued. And look, I mean, the funny thing about it is when you talk about the way that BYU structures their team and their game plan, like you almost have to compare it to Iowa. They want to manage games more than they want to put away games. And I think that there are certain times where I have issues with that, where I'm like, just lay the hammer, man. There's that West Virginia game a couple of weeks ago where they only win 38-24, but like they dominated that game. They obliterated West Virginia, but they just kind of parked the bus and we're like, all right, let's not run up and it's like, well, sometimes you actually do want to do that. Sometimes you do want to put the game away so you don't put yourself in harm's way. But all that to say, I think that this BYU team is very good. I think that, frankly, because of what I kind of talked about, the analytics underrate them a little bit. Heading into the week, I don't know where they're at right now, but I believe that Texas Tech was number 4 in the SP+, Utah was number 7, and BYU was number 19, at least heading into the last.
They are 16 now.
16 now. So, again,
but top 25 in every phase. No discernible big weakness here.
Well, they are literally 25th on offense, is what Alex means.
Well, and I think that this is what's interesting, right? So I'm doing a story that's coming out on Thursday on Bear Bachmeier, the quarterback over at BYU. And one thing that Kalani Sitake acknowledged was like, yeah, we really wanted to give him as little as possible to start and build on itself. So like when you look at some of their early performances where they're only winning by X amount, it's like they're not even really leaning on the quarterback that much. They're not even passing the ball that much. They're just like, let's control the controllables, let's limit the variables and kind of ease forward. I think that if you look at their last, I think it's 3 games, Arizona, Utah, and Iowa State, you've seen a team that is starting to put the hammer down a little bit. And I think that has the ability to put the hammer down to maybe a little bit more of a level than people realize. That, last year when we had this conversation about BYU, they were, like you said, I mean, top 25 and everything, but they weren't excellent at anything, right? There was no stat category where they were among the national leaders or Big 12 leaders. Well, that's changed this year. They have a top 10 rusher in LJ Martin, who apparently is likely to play in this game.
Apparently he's going to go here.
Yeah, they have Isaiah Glasker, who I think will get All-American consideration at linebacker. They've got a quarterback in Bear Bachmeier, who I think competes with any true freshman in the country right now. Like, they have legitimate players who are stars at different positions. Chase Roberts, by the way, at wide receiver, I think is a big-time player. So, like, I think that they have more stars on this team in 2025 than they did in 2024 in terms of guys who can change the game in an instant. The other thing that I'll say as well is that, I mentioned that I feel like they're going to match up pretty well with Texas Tech's offensive line and maybe be able to cause some issues. Well, I think that the other thing as well is that I actually think that they maybe have the ability to spread the field on offense in a way that we haven't necessarily seen to this point, especially against a defense like Texas Tech. I mentioned Chase Roberts. I mean, one of the most underrated receivers in the country. They have playmakers at tight end. They have other speed playmakers. Like, they have a lot that they can attack you with offensively, and they haven't even really tried as yet to this point, maybe outside of that Utah game. So I think they're going to come with their A game, and I definitely think, the line's like 10.5. I think that the models are going to be pretty off about BYU, even if Texas Tech wins this game.
Dude, also, you mentioned countering the offensive line for Texas Tech. BYU's linebackers are so...
We talked about Jack Kelly a couple weeks ago, dude, man.
Yep. It's also Isaiah Glasker. BYU fans sometimes get sensitive about this. Player. And Like, when I say this dude's a grown-ass man, in part because he did a mission, he's 23, and, like, look at his headshot on BYU's website, and, like, look at his mustache. Like, this dude is an adult. Like, he could be in his third year in the NFL, and
I'm not touching all of this. I disavow.
Like, I'm not criticizing it either. I'm just saying, like, they got grown-ass men at linebacker who are just, like, I mean, seriously, go look at his headshot, man. Like, he looks like he's been in the NFL for 10 years. Like,
and by the way, I will also mention Jack Kelly started his career at Weber State, played under their defensive coordinator Jay Hill when he was head coach there. So he's been in this defensive system for like 5 years at this point.
Yeah, I mean, they just have guys like this, so they hit. I mean, they really hit. John, this is not a pick show. We demand no pick. But do you have any? I don't even say lean, but any
just ask him to pick the game.
I can pick the game, guys. It's all right. It's all right. I have to pick it about like 8 different places. I'll pick the game.
Pick the game, Shahan.
So this is a really interesting matchup, right? I think that you're in a situation where, again, Texas Tech is the more desperate team. If Texas Tech loses this game, their pathway to making the Big 12 title game and college football playoff is more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, we could see this game rematched in the Big 12 championship game.
I think we will, in fact. But I think that, it's the biggest game in Lubbock since 2008, since the Michael Crabtree game against Texas. It's kind of the big prove-it game for Texas Tech in a lot of ways. And I think that also, I think Texas Tech is just a little bit of a better team. Again, not the 10 points better that Vegas has them, but I do think that they are a better team. If they were on a neutral field, I think Texas Tech is a better team. I think that they have more elite guys at different places. I think they have the most elite unit in this game in their pass rush. But again, BYU's going to come at them with a lot. Like, they have not had to reveal hardly anything through the first half of their season. And I think that they're going to come to the table with a lot out there. I think that having a dual threat quarterback in Bear Bachmeier is a big deal. I think he's a very physical runner. LJ Martin playing, I think, is huge for this game. I don't think they'd have much chance in it without him. I'm going to take Texas Tech, but this is going to be a very low scoring game. This is going to be a very close game. Give me something like 24 to 18 or something like that.
I think, frankly, Texas Tech wins and covers. I think Texas Tech bows up on defense and BYU struggles.
Yeah, I think this could be a backdoor cover situation personally. Like, I think that that's probably, the sort of late touchdown that puts it away, that sets Lubbock on fire. Again, it kills me that we're going to be doing this at 1:30 local time. Like, come on. I want to see the Michael Crabtree play at 9 p.m. I don't want to see it at 2 p.m.
Yes. How about the Big 12 getting the big noon treatment, which for the fans sucks. Not what you want. This is an Ohio State problem.
It's not even the Fox game though. I think it's an ABC game. Like, it's not even, you're not even getting big noon as part of it. Yeah.
Wow, that's ridiculous. Oh wait, they're getting game day. Excuse me.
Yes, they are getting game day. And fans have been camping out since Sunday night. I'm heading down to Texas Tech Thursday morning. I'm excited to go and catch up.
How do you get there? What's that? Because Lubbock ain't close on anything. What's the deal there from the broader DFW area?
Yeah, it's not hard. So there's 2 ways to kind of do it. There's like the scenic route, and then there's the interstate route.
Scenic to Lubbock is one way to put it.
You pass by a lot of trees and then they're gone, but you do pass by some trees. So kind of the easiest way is to go I-20 west, and then you hit a road like near Snyder that then you kind of go off on a highway basically. But it's not hard. I mean, it's a really easy drive. It's one of those where you're driving 75 miles per hour, but like it just keeps going, So
that is that's one of my favorite things about Texas, the speed limit being like 75 or 80.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Oh, yeah. And like, I'm saying 75 because I'm lying that I'm going the speed limit.
Right. But something else, Shahan, that I would say? I'm going to give it to the Texas state government on this one. Your license plates, no frills.
No frills. No, they keep it simple.
I don't need pictures or whatever on the plate. Just show me the number.
Especially as somebody from Maryland, I know that you guys must have some mess up there. I know that you got the flag decals plates, going everywhere.
The Maryland plates, yeah, I had one of those on my car for years. Anyway, so license plates in Texas, nicely designed. This is not a place to be artistic.
No, but it's an easy drive. It's one of those drives that definitely, I like to do it when it's light out because, again, nothing's gonna happen. You're like, my car works, don't get me wrong, but it's one of those things where it's like, if it's 10:30 p.m. and I break down, I just assume I'm gonna die. Like there's nobody.
You're at least
there's nothing
sleeping out there. Ain't nothing out there.
Yeah, there's no cell service. Like no, man. I do this drive during waking hours, and the other thing as well is that I don't know. I've just always hated bugs. And once you start getting to like 7, 8 p.m., you are driving through waves of like moths and mosquitoes hitting your windshield. So I'm like, let me do this in the daytime before they come out.
It is the biggest game in Texas Tech's recent history, going all the way back to the Crabtree games. The tortillas might not be flying, but the good football will be. It's the main course, presented by Modelo Shahan Jayaraja, CBS Sports. Shahan Jayaraja, thanks for joining us here, brother, on this one. Thanks for joining us for the tasting menu as well here on Split Zone Duo. We appreciate it, and we'll see you Sunday.